Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is a special edition of Roundtable with Africa. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Today, I'm sitting with Mr. Edward Amara. He's our West Africa correspondent. There are trouble in West Africa. Coup in Burkina Faso. We're going to be discussing that, and we're going to be also discussing. Previously, there was a coup in Guinea and also coup in Mali. And guess what? All of them are headed by military guys, barely 40, 41 years old. We're going to be delving into all that. Invite a friend, share a show. Amara, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jai. And I also want to join you to welcome our thousands of listeners across the globe, especially in Africa, and those who are living in the diaspora who may want to know what is going on in motherland. We are all welcome to discuss this hectic, important issue that is going on in the Sahel region of West Africa, especially Burkina Faso, Mali, and Guinea.
And Mr. Amara, at the beginning of the show, I played a song by Sonny Yokusu, Who Owns Papa's Land? And those were the days, those were the songs that we grew up listening to, Who Owns Papa's Land? Africa was being colonized. And so there was this wave of revolution across Africa, asking those people to leave, that we wanted to rule our own land. Right now, that happened. We had African leaders after independence, like Robert Mugabe, Colonel Gaddafi, and no, not before. That was he overthrew his uncle. So all these people in Africa now, what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. I think during the wave of trying to to put Africa on the stage of democracy and maybe to allow Africa to be ruled by Africans, we saw revolutionaries propping up out of Africa. They could be politicians, they could be musicians who actually wanted to seek for the interests of Africa. As he rightly stated, like Robert Gabriel Mugabe of Zimbabwe, you think about Ken Kaunda of Zambia, you think about Frederick Chilubas, and all others, Nelson Mandela, you think about Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Sutomo Sankara, all across the globe, even the now dictator, who turned dictator Yahya Jammeh and others. Though I could not consider him to be like he was a revolutionist, but not actually a pan-Africanist. You saw young men like that coming on the continent. By then, arguably by then they were young, wanting who we actually seeking for Africans to be ruled by Africans. And you listen keenly to what Sonny Ogusu, though I wasn't born within that time, but I love listening to music like that because I am a very big fan of BBC. I listen to them, they come with revolution and songs like that. So they really try to portray where Africa is coming and where Africa should head and why we should know why Africans, if Africans own the land, then I think they should actually join the forces to govern the land instead of us being into our land and working foreigners to govern system and actually determine our fate.
And since then, Africans started ruling Africa, and there was waves of coups, military takeover. Burkina Faso registered 10, Nigeria 8, Burundi 6, Chad 6, Ghana 6, Comoros 6, Mauritania 6, Sudan 6, Ethiopia, and the list goes on. For some, things started to settle in, like Ghana became an actual democratic country. But we're surprised now that it looked like these coups are coming back to West Africa. We started with Mali, then Guinea, now Burkina Faso. But let's start with Burkina Faso. That's the fresh coup on the I think it's been since less than a week now. It's a coup in Burkina Faso. Tell me what happened in Burkina Faso.
You see, the situation in Burkina Faso has actually been very fragile. We all know what happened since 2 months since the late man that was overthrown in 1987, and we had Blaise Compaoré coming on the head of affairs in Burkina Faso. He ruled Burkina Faso with an iron fist for a staggering 27 years. And in 2015, we saw 2014 popular demonstration was in Burkina Faso that subsequently led to the ousting of Blaise Compaoré, and now he's being hosted in Ivory Coast. and probably waiting prosecution. Then we saw President Christian Ray Michael Kabori coming into power. He came into power on a popular ticket, maybe to restore Burkina Faso's lost glory, because we all know Thomas Sankara he changed Burkina Faso from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, and Burkina Faso mean the land of the honest people, brave men, honest people. So that was why they changed it. He wanted to stabilize Burkina Faso, but when he was maliciously assassinated by his colleague, a friend into the army by the name of Blaise Compaoré, and that country never tasted democracy. Anything like human rights institution was thing of the past. So when Roch Kabore came into power, it was highly expected from the national, especially from the Burkinabés, that what Thomas Sankara intended to do, they already got the Moses, the savior, into their own palm. Unfortunately, his regime was greeted with political violence, especially other violence that continued. There was a coup into coup in Burkina Faso. We saw after Blaise Compaoré left, Kabore became elected into power. Less than 2 weeks' time, a coup happened into Burkina Faso. But this current Henry Damiba actually withdrew himself from the coup because it was a little bit unpopular. So it happens that since then, this country, uh, being that it is connected to the Sahel and with development into Mali, development into Nigeria, development into Chad, Cameroon, we saw they are connected to the Sahel region. A lot of Islamic insurgents, talk about jihadis, Daesh, and Al-Qaeda are seriously operating into those regions. And watching at Burkina Faso, in those situations, it's a bit different from other countries because economically, Africa is strong, Cameroon is strong, Mali is a bit stronger than Burkina Faso. You talk about Nigeria, they are big brothers of Africa, and also Chad, led by then. Now we are having a Mohamed Infantino Debi on affairs, on him of affairs when his dad lost power or through dad lost his life. That is Idris Deby on the battlefront. So Burkina Faso, around 21 million people, absolutely poor. It is the poorest in the sub-Saharan region. So they started facing this wave of Islamic attack. So there was that popular demand from the general populace that I think democracy should be restored. The people should feel that they are secure, and what they never even face under Blaise Compaoré should not be perpetual circumstances that they are going under. Unfortunately, the government did not have that absolute control over the Islamic movement into Burkina Faso. So from 2015, he ruled the country to 2020. He elected again. Unfortunately, the soldiers started to complain. Now there was shortage of supply, they were underpaid, and they lacked the resources that they should even take at the battlefront. And above all, they were even complaining about shortage of manpower. And they also said that the Islamic of fighting terrorism is not the type of war where captives can easily be taken as prisoners. When you are caught, they can definitely kill you. So they started to complain, and they needed a reshuffle into the military of Burkina Faso, like trying to sack those guys who are on hem of affairs, but they are not doing anything. Those gendarmeries who are actually fighting the war at the battlefront, but they are not directly benefiting from anything that is going on, and their lives is being left at the stake or the masses of this book of the Islamic State Union or Daesh or IC or Al-Qaeda. So some part in November last year, there was actually an attack on the army base. Out of 150 soldiers based over the gendarmeries, about 53 were actually killed. So there was that popular call. And they also accused the Kabore government of being responsible of the weakness into the battle against the Islamists, and above all, he allied with France. It's not helping the situation. So there was that popular demonstration, and the military also felt that they are not being considered into the battle. At the end of the day, they are the one losing their lives. So with the population, with the popular demonstration from the Burkinabe, the attack on the French troops, especially by the civilian, preventing them not to even take any stock across Chad, Niger, and whatsoever. So the army used this as a pretext to seize power. So finally on Sunday, there was a kind of commotion, pandemonium, you name it, so in the military barracks. The defense minister of Burkina Faso was so determined and informed the president and other cabinet ministers that everything is safe and sound, and they are going to make sure that they put situation under control. Unfortunately, by Sunday morning, he was rounded up, and a few others, including the PM, and the president was smuggled on a marked vehicle by the presidential guy or some of those gendarmeries who later on joined the coup and handed over the president. And he was given a letter of resignation on Monday to what to announce resignation on public television by stating that in the name of peace, he has definitely decided to quit power, and the army now, the boys in the khaki uniform, are now on the hem of affairs. So these are some of the issues that led to the coup in Burkina Faso.
And before that, I think it started with a public demonstration, which the military put under control. There was a police presence and tear gas and all that. What the civilian actually wanted Kabore to do?
Well, as I stated initially, they have lost faith into the Kabore government. You know, he was actually elected on the ticket, especially the one that he was elected on 2020. Because in 2015, that was where we started having all of these crises. From 2020 to 2020, we saw a lot of things happen. But he was asking for time. And he needed to restructure the government, maybe seek international support, especially from France, and help to put down the insurgent movement into the country. But the Burkinabés never trusted the French people in the first place. They accused France of being only in Burkina Faso to exploit the country, maybe continue to put the country in the state of pandemonium, chaos, or whatsoever thing, where they will be using the country's wealth to enrich themselves. And they also believe that the Kabore government was not serious to fight against the Islamic movement. And on a daily basis, especially in the north and east, about 300,000 people are not going to school. 200 or around 2,000 people are being killed, and 1.5 million people are displaced. In living in totally internal displaced people, and at the same time there is no agricultural activities going on over there. People have abandoned their homes, and most of them are actually living in the streets they are living on the street of the capital city of Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou, begging. They are mere beggars into their own country. They stand asking for arm, and some of them are actually domestic workers roaming around in regions where war is not there. Burkina Faso is also a deeply divided country when it comes to tribalism and whatsoever thing. So all of these accusations are over there. When you see the north and the east, they are totally battered by the Islamic State movement. So now demonstration was going on that Kabore is no longer the man that we thought he is, and he should definitely quit power. So demonstration was going against Kabore, are also against France, on reason that he's unable to fight against the Islamic movement into the country. He has not been able to put the country under strict security, and at the same time, the people basic needs are definitely not provided by the government, and so he lost his legitimacy. And any government that lost its legitimacy, we may start to see popular demonstration. And the military also, we are definitely disgruntled. On numerous occasions, they have been against, but that is why he relied more on the police to put down each time there's a public demonstration into the country. He relied more on the military police to put down this public demonstration. On numerous occasions, they have confronted the populace by firing live bullets and destroying life and property. All of those things are there. So they use this as the pretext. The military uses it as the pretext to seize power. So these are some of the disgruntledness. And he also failed to bring the military into a compatible situation, because the military, we are most of the gendarmeries, the junior officers, we are accusing the senior officers of only being in Ouagadougou and other places enjoying themselves while they are dying in the battlefront, and at the same time they have shortage of manpower supply. They have no enough food, and there is no enough resources in time of ammunition fighting against the insurgents. Unfortunately, the insurgents do not take anybody captive. If you are caught, definitely they will just try to assassinate you or seek different other things. So even in Ouagadougou, which is the capital city of Burkina Faso, the people we are no longer safe, because we have seen on numerous occasions hotels we are being attacked there, where foreigners and other civilians losing their life on a daily basis to this to the insurgent movement. And when you watch at the share border with Chad, the share border with Cameroon, the share border the share border with Chad, the share border with Nigeria, and the share border also with Cameroon and other places, including Ivory Coast. So all of these places are fighting against the Islamic State movement. So they feel that they are now vulnerable. The best thing that they could do is to just quit them, ask the man to quit power, or they will force him to quit it.
So was this movement being led by any politician who, and what were their specific demands that were made that he should do? Because I see the civilian, but were there any politician involved who will actually catalog what they want and make demands or make suggestions to Kabore?
Well, I think Kabore won a landslide victory in the last election that was held in 2020. It was a landslide victory. Although we have opposition movement into Burkina Faso, but it is an opposition party that have now been seen like a kind of a movement that deceived the country for over 27 years by a movement because Blaise Compaoré still has his party over there. So there is not that strong or compatible political party being formed against Kabore that actually led to his ousting. Rather, it was the general population of all the Burkinabés themselves, because they felt that the when it comes to his fighting insurgents, especially this Islamic State movement, they do not watch at ethnic group. They do not watch because they kill people indiscriminately. They do not watch at ethnic group. At the same time, they do not watch at your political affiliation. Rather, they want to install a kind of Islamic State movement where they rule by Sharia law, maybe take over the governance system of the area. So both of those people, because they attack the north, they attack the east, and maybe Ouagadougou was also an area where anybody can be killed. So there was no politician against it. However, civil societies, we all know that they sound the opinion of people when it comes to that, because they have those private and public civil society. But this was a kind of combined movement. And even the school system, because school system totally deteriorated in the north and also in the east. Like one of the teachers, even when Damiba took over, Colonel Damiba took over, though he never spoke to, by then he never spoke to the country's television or the national television. The teacher was so happy that they are not going to take it as a coup. Rather, incompetent politicians have been kicked out of power, and they want the military boys to take over so that at least the glory that Burkina Faso has lost should be restored. And at the same time, security and school systems should actually be restored. When you watch at the demonstration that have been going into Burkina Faso, people of all walks of life we are actually involved into the demonstration, and most importantly the civil society movement. We are sounding the opinions of the people, going on radio, trying to castigate the president and asking him to leave. So these were some of the demand, and since last year this demand have been actually, so it's an open secret. The signals we are all already around, the signs of signals we are already around. All, I think all was just a matter of time that one day the army in their own situation, because the civilians we are disgruntled, but when it came to a situation now where the army at the battlefront, we are losing their life on a daily basis to the Islamic State movement, to the jihadist movement, and also to this ISIL. And the government was not, the promise that the government made by shaking up. Why did this man who just took over power was just appointed 7 weeks ago as the head of the country's anti-terrorist movement?
Yeah.
And maybe the president was moving into that direction to ensure that he make a reshufflement into the military setup, and at the same time try to bring up certain strategy that may help him to fight against the Islamic State movement. Unfortunately, the man whom he brought into power decided to strike against him, and he successfully took him as prisoner, because this man is a former banker. Maybe he used to politics, but we all know the politics nowadays in Africa does not depend on one discipline, rather having the opportunity to buy popular support. I can easily win over the country. And the man in question is highly educated. He has written books, and he knows, he has been close to the powers that are steering Burkina Faso's affairs. So he knew what he was doing, and they said he's a very careful politician in a military uniform. And when he did his jobs, he also ensured that he do it the best way.
And when the coup took place, there was jubilation in the street. In fact, when and we'll come to the ECOWAS, when ECOWAS tried to talk about ban, civil society said no. This is a popular citizen movement. So and when I look at the people rejoicing, I too remember 1980 when people went in the street and were rejoicing. Does the civilian trust the military to do the right thing?
Well,
we're having some trouble there with Amara's connection.
so under this particular circumstance, we should observe things like watching at Burkina Faso in a situation where is to trust the military, because the country is under a state where the best people that can handle the country affairs is the military. And one of the basic necessity of man is security also. We shouldn't forget about that. Unfortunately, security is not being provided by the current administration into Burkina Faso, by the then administration. It was not being provided by the then administration in Burkina Faso. So the demonstration did not come as a surprise. Rather, people have been calling for the departure of Kabori. So when it finally happened on Monday, because it all started on Sunday, and finally on Monday, everything was nailed on the head. Um, Everybody was just happy. So when you watch at the current situation, I think they trust the military, because let's watch at the situation in Mali. Mali, we all know under IBK, Abubakar Keita, when he was there, a lot of things was actually happening. And since he lost the power of the military, we saw they were even, but those guys were mounting pressure and destroying Timbuktu, coming, destroying vital areas into Mali. And finally, when the military took over under a person of Geta, we are seeing actually they are still fighting insurgents. You may argue that still the situation in Mali is not yet stabilized, but at the end of the day, this guy has managed to at least put certain things, stability into place, and people are going on their normal affairs. But they are actually conscious of the fact that still Mali is fighting insurgent, but the situation is not precarious or too fragile as when it was under IBK. Maybe watching a situation like that in Mali, they definitely want certain things. Even when you watch a Chad Idris Deby, when they know him to be a warrior, they know him to be a general who have fought many battles. Unfortunately, he lost his life. And Mohamed Infantino Deby took over. You are seeing a lot of stability to Chad, and they are always telling you that they are killing a lot of this Islamic State movement into the country. And we are seeing stability in Jamina and other places in the north of the country. Maybe when they watch at this situation, they think and feel that Burkina Faso will also enjoy similar peace like that, though it may not be permanent, but people will still be conscious of the fact that the country is not yet safe, but they have some amount of security under their own belt.
This is the guy, right?
Absolutely. He is.
And when I was reading about him, he's an educated guy. As you said, he wrote a book. And we see too, he's 41. He just celebrated his 41st birthday, relatively young compared to, but the military are always, young people trying to make these kind of changes. Tell me a little bit more about the coup leader.
Well, Colonel Paul Henry Sandugu Damiba was actually born in 1981. He's now 41 years old. He got his education in France, as many of those, we all know Burkina Faso is also another French commune. It was a colony under France. He got the education there. He has a master's in criminal science, and he sometimes school in France, graduated from one of the most reputable universities or military academy into the country. And he received some training also in the US from 2010 to 2020. There is a kind of program on USA that actually confirmed that. He is highly educated compared to his compatriots in Mali, Guelta, and that of Mamadi. And he has also being on the helm of affairs in Burkina Faso, especially when it comes to fighting terrorism. And interestingly enough, this man also served Blaise Compaoré. Blaise Compaoré, who is currently in exile in Ivory Coast, the former president. He was one of his presidential guide. And few weeks ago, he celebrated his 41 years old birthday. And at the same time, he was also promoted 7 weeks ago as the head of the country anti-terrorist branch that the president Kabori, now the former president, formed to fight against the movement of the Islamic State movement into the country. And he's one of the few generals whom, according to what I read about him, he's carefully educated and with a quality military background. He has been involved into things that are not popular. Like in 2015, there was a kind of attempted coup, a coup d'etat in Burkina Faso. He distanced himself from the coup and helped to reinstall the president into power. and also fight for the democratization of the country and ensure that civilians never lost their life under certain circumstances like that. He's an academician, as I rightly stated, maybe highly educated compared to his two colleagues in Guinea and also in Mali. Then when it comes to his political background, they said he has actually been on the hem of affairs, where because he has been very close with those who have been steering the affairs of Burkina Faso. Because we are going to watch in the situation like of Blade Compaore. Blade Compaore ruled Burkina Faso for up to 27 good years. And this man was serving as a presidential guard. And being a presidential commander into that presidential guard means he was well informed on the affairs of Burkina Faso, and he knew exactly what happened then throughout the Blade Compaore government. And if you have seen, Kabore also came, he failed to support the coup d'etat against Kabore, and he served as a commander, a colonel under Kabore, and later on he was promoted to fight against this particular terrorist movement. So it means he's well of faith, soundly educated, and well informed over everything that is going on. And he's married to Lala Diallo, a Fulani. I actually tried to probe into his ethnic background, but sorry, I think he's not the one married to Lala Diallo. It's Asimi, who is
Okay.
in Mali.
Do,
Unfortunately,
do,
they wanted to give personal
Amara, do we
about.
do we know if he has the backing of any foreign country like France or America or anywhere else, or maybe Chad, Ivory Coast, Cameroon? Do we know of any ties?
But he should have the backing of Guinea. He should have the backing of Chad. He should have the backing of Mali. And when we come to foreign power, because what happened on Monday, when most of those civilians who were protesting against Kabore, and when he took over power, after he asked, they said he's a little bit shy from public from public. That is why he asked a captain to go and read his what his
Statement.
intention, or just to go and do a brief profiling of the movement that they intend to set up and their intention to progress the country from one stage to another, and the reasons behind their seizing of power into Mali. So when he came out publicly in Ouagadougou, people who were actually welcoming his overthrow of Kabore, and those who were actually celebrating the military took over, we are having Russian flags with them. So that is a clear indication that there must be a connection between them and Mali, and even between them and Guinea. And mind you, they are all born into the 80s, and they
Mm.
all have the interface, something like Giota and Mamadi interface some time ago in America. They also interfaced in France when they were undergoing this training. And the training that he also underwent from 2010 to 2020, both Mamadi and Giota also underwent this training. So they have that popular, they are popular within the sub-region based on the circumstances that Burkina
Right.
Faso is facing. And with the presence that they are even demanding that France should leave and Russia
Mm.
should come in. And just after that, we are seeing them with Russian flags, and there was no protest against the military. Never stopped those who are welcoming them, because if they had no intention to ally themselves with Russia, they do not have any Russia backing. We know, although the military, sometimes when they want to discipline, they take their actions automatically. So those who are actually Russian flags within that particular people welcoming the coup that was staged on Monday, they never protested against them. Rather, they were all welcome. So with the
Right.
presence of the Russian flag, I think Russia definitely has a backing of them. And the AU have already moved by saying no to the coup, demanding for, when we come to that, demanding for the earlier release of Kabore and his detained cabinet ministers. But like what happened in Mali, when the
Right.
AU decided to suspend Mali totally, since Mali decided that in 5 years' time, Giota is going to conduct election, and they have suspended him. What Mamadi did, he opened the borders with Mali, saying that he has no intention to close the border because they are brothers who found themselves into the same soup. It's a cooking pot of the chameleon. It's no different from that of Eliza. So he decided to just allow the situation to be a normal one between Mali and Guinea. And we have seen that he closed the land and air border, but it's actually open the land borders to allow, because Burkina Faso is devastated. Now they are facing, I think if we do not take time, they may face a tsunami of hunger into the country, because
Mm.
the military, the insurgent movement into Burkina Faso have actually created starvation on the people. Like 1.5 million people are displaced, 300,000 people are actually internally displaced, over
Yeah.
300,000 people, especially school pupils, are not attending
Right.
school. There are
300,000 school kids
yeah,
are out of school.
2,000 people have now lost their lives. So we are seeing hunger, starvation, and all that things are going on into the country. So you cannot afford to say, let the border keep on blocking. So he still maintained that kind of unanimous relationship, if not a convivial one, between him and his neighbors.
Right. And in Chad, in Mali, sorry, in Mali, they have allowed Russian troops to come and fight the insurgent with them. So it is likely that Burkina Faso may be doing the same thing to allow Russia to come and help them against the insurgents.
Absolutely, because we are seeing here that but we see we what the problem here is that they have just lost hope and trust into France, because France have been present into the Sahel region as early as 2020, I mean 2010, and they have been fighting against the Islamists, the people like ISIL, Al Qaeda. But the more they pour resources into the conflict as coming to them, the more these people have clue to fight against them. And they are doubting where this jihadist movement are actually generating arms and ammunition to fight against the government. And they are always facing this government here with sophisticated weapons, breaking down barracks, killing army, and destroying army barracks on a daily basis into the country. And interestingly enough, it is only France that is interacting with these people, because there are certain regions, like take Cameroon, like Mali, in the northern part of Mali, it is only the French troop who have that power to involve either into negotiation or fighting against the terrorist movement. And these people, they are not going into any other country. I think their existence is just within the Sahel, and they still keep possessing sophisticated weapons with arm ammunition, taking successful missions against the government into this sub-region. So now the Burkinabes, the Malians, maybe they have come to that kind of thinking that, or find a resolution that, I think our main problem, or we think our main problem is France, and if France is our main problem, then let us ask them out. Now we have seen they asked, in fact, in Mali they have asked the French to leave, and the Danish troop, we are actually there, they asked all those Danes who are stationed over there to definitely leave, and they have welcomed Russia to help them into the battle. And we are also seeing that definitely Burkina Faso is also intending to toe that line. And even in Guinea, Russia is heavily involved into mining of bauxite, iron ore, and other things into the country. And when they come there, they are not only coming there on economic basis, they are also going to involve into things like trying to equip the country military, because one of the important thing that they need into the Sahel region now is how to stabilize that particular region by providing adequate security. And if that is the case, Russia is also moving into that direction, because Russia is one of the world superpowers, arguably. Then at the same time, we understand that Russia also involved into this invention of weapons of mass destruction. They can easily set military
Right.
equipment, maybe give them on cheaper price to ensure that we can provide security, things that you are not definitely getting from France. And we may also see France may also try to change their psychological approach to their colonies, because Russia is way in Asia. France is very close to Africa, arguably when you compare where Russia is stationed. So things
And
like that, they are now moving to trust them instead of trusting France.
and that's become a scary situation because we don't want West Africa to be like Afghanistan, where we see Russia and America fighting a proxy war for years. So it when people are in trouble, they want help no matter where it comes from. But it seems to be a very dangerous situation now with the coming in of Russia and the asking the West or France to get out. What do you see down the road as a result of this kind of Rush East and West fight in West Africa?
Well, like yeah, what happened in Afghanistan, maybe in Kabul, it could be it's slightly different from what will happen into Burkina Faso or into West Africa. Because mind you, in Afghanistan, the Taliban's we are a recognized political party. We are the one that we are outstated some 20 years back by the American-led regime. And they came and installed a government that had their popular support. But finally, they left there when America decided to withdraw her troops, that the Afghans should be responsible for their own security. Because one of their paramount mission was to hunt against people like Osama bin Laden. And with the killing of Osama bin Laden by, I think, Obama and a lot of other things have actually taken place into Afghanistan, they left. But when you watch at the current situation in Mali, maybe it cannot be equated to said, but however, we cannot delete it because we have to study the situation before ever we can have a quality prediction. Because now the current government in Mali and that of Burkina Faso are not favoring France. So if they are
Yeah.
not favoring France, France will not have that moral and physical authority to install themselves over there. And that is why it all started with even the civilians. They demonstrated against France, asking France to leave. And the hatred of France by the Burkinabés also led to the departure or the early departure of Kabore in his second time of office. And even in Mali, they do not trust France. So if France had that kind of moral support into Burkina Faso, maybe would have witnessed a situation like what is happening today in Afghanistan. Here you will see foreign powers creating trouble on a daily basis in Kabul on who to maintain control over whatsoever thing. You are seeing all that people are condemning the Taliban, while Russia and China have been so careful, making certain diplomatic approach and telling them we have to study the situation before we move to condemn and whatsoever thing that is going on. Unfortunately, that is not happening because both the civilians do not want the existence of France and the current regime on the helm of affairs in this particular West African state do not favor France. So if France can honorably depart the country, maybe we cannot withstand a situation like that, except if they want to use their military power by
Right.
saying that you are not going to leave. Then
And
that will
France benefit a lot from Africa. So I don't think France is going to give up that that enjoyment, that luxury, because France are free. Francophone countries are paying zillions of dollars to France, and so for France to give that up easily and let Russia take over, I don't think that's going to happen. But let's come to this whole idea of a military takeover, mainly from France. We saw from their own friends. We saw in between Julius Madabio and Valentine Strasser. It's like you have trusted people. We saw with Blaise Compaoré and Thomas Sankara. Now we see that in Guinea, we also see the trusted guy, going and overthrowing his father. The same thing we've seen. This guy was just promoted to head the anti-terrorist unit in Burkina Faso. Now he said, if I can be the one fighting, I think I can be president too. This is scary. And for Burkina Faso, it's a democratically elected government. And we have the military coming and taking over and people closer to you. So if you are president in Africa, in especially West Africa today, should you be worried?
I can agree with you more. They say when you are dining with the devil, you should use the longest fork, so that you may be far and observe what is going on into the plate. Uh, Maybe something like that. But we are watching at the connotation of a legitimate government, because the Cameroon government, I think, signed a social contract with the people. And the Burkinabe deemed it necessary that that social contract is no longer being respected because the government is not capable of providing it. And they started demonstrating. You may argue that there was a kind of democratically elected government into Guinea by Condé because he won an election. But the Guineans thought that it was rigged, and Guinea was at a situation that anytime demonstration and there was no human rights institution being observed. And finally, Mamadi and a few others moved and took over the country. We also see now the late man, Abubakar Keita, who was overthrown in August 2020. He lost also his legitimacy with the Malians when they accused him of fraudulently conducting the parliamentary election by ensuring that parliamentarians whom he favor are being elected to parliament, maybe to pass bill and support his movement blindly, even though they know that they are not delivering the objective of the government. So, or the objective that the people elected them on. So popular demonstration were into Mali, and the army also complained that it's very similar to what happened into Mali,
Right.
into Burkina Faso. Lack of supplies, lack of manpower. Then also they were underpaid, and their entire welfare situation was not also being looked into, and they were dying on the daily basis. And the civilians also never wanted the government to stay into power, maybe to provide stability into the country or ensure stability. They seized power and asked IBK to resign, and later on he was released. Unfortunately, he has lost his life, and he has actually been interred into Bamako, and few people actually attended the burial. So you compare certain situations. There are times in Africa you need to be very careful. This is why we have seen on numerous occasions when a particular government come into power, they tend to empower people from the same ethnic background when it comes to favoring them with cabinet position. It's a sensitive position like the defense ministry, where they will ensure that people from the same ethnic background are being promoted on a high scale to ensure that the person who is controlling the affairs for safety reason. Because this is exactly what is happening. Of course, in Sierra Leone, we saw Mada Bio even strike against his own brother, Strycer. Maybe he thought that Strycer was no longer living up to expectation, being that the ceasefire. But he did it honorably. Afterwards, he presented the crown to the late man, Ahmed Tijan Kaba. Kaba came back. We saw what happened in Burkina Faso itself when Blaise Compaoré and Thomas Sankara seized power. Just 3 years later, Blaise Compaoré turned over as Thomas Sankara and killed him. Up to now, he's facing that trial. Maybe that situation was a bit different because Thomas Sankara was a patriot, very respected into Africa. In fact, his standards are extraordinary. Everybody tend to admire him, and most people even used to quote him. And people are even equated Damiba to Blaise Compaoré and stating that they still have the same intention, and maybe he could be the Jesus Christ of Burkina Faso in the form of Damiba. Maybe it is Thomas Sankara that came into the making. So we saw things like that, and if you move in a situation that what you primarily agree on, you have decided to deviate from it, your colleagues can easily strike against you. And they're also facing a kind of a precarious situation, very weak. Everything is just fragile, and they depend on the military to support their movement. You in a normal circumstances like institution like Liberia, maybe Sierra Leone, where we do not have wars, or in other countries, where do you depend on your power? You depend on the power into the parliament. Maybe the House of Representatives shouldn't impeach you. When you come now to countries that are fighting against war, you tend to put more of your loyalty or premium on your loyalty to the army, because they know that if every other person into the country oppose you, but as long as you have the backing of the army, you are still safe into your governance system. But immediately you lost the support of the army, anytime you can be taken out of power. So that is why, and this is why we have been seeing a lot of coup happening into coup. Like Geta was merely attacked in last year. I think it was in 2021. He was attacked from a crowd. A man within the crowd just moved with a knife. He merely killed him, and that man was killed on the spot. But that also may throw signal. Who knows? Somebody may have sacrificed his life to ensure that that man stage another coup that may even lead him to declare himself now for another 5 years into power. Because the scenario was very difficult to say. It was on Friday he went on prayers and thinking about he was a kind of military man, the head of state by then, with all of other security personnel being provided. How come that man took a knife and directly went and attacked the head of state with all the available presidential guard against it? So some analysts were watching at it outside the box, maybe to try to analyze the situation. It was just like what happened in Zimbabwe when Emerson Mnangagwa took over, known as the crocodile. What he did, they formulate a coup, an attempted coup into the national stadium, and they use this as a pretext to arrest politicians and maybe imprison people, and even ask two people even run out of the country just to ensure that they stabilize themselves. It also happened some time ago in Turkey when Erdogan declared there was a coup attempt against him. He sacked a lot of people. A lot of people were killed. Those who were not in favor of him, they are up to now in prison. Some of them are even been sentenced to life in prison. So these are some of the things that we normally see. Though we may not rule out the genuinity of it, but there are times they try to formulate story to ensure that they stick themselves into power.
Thank you. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll take our viewers' comments and take calls, and then we'll also discuss the precarious situation in this country. We see that even in Liberia, I was surprised to hear on the radio that people fancied the coup in Burkina Faso and say, "Hey, we are suffering. Why can't there be coup here?" We see that young people, like the ones we call the drug users and the homeless people in the street called Zogos, these are people wasting thousands. And we saw when there's war anywhere, these are the people that are recruited. So if you have those kind of people sitting somewhere doing nothing, it is very much likely when they are trouble in other areas, they can be recruited. So if we look at the suffering of the young people, joblessness and hunger and all these things happening, people are going back to those days when Coup was the order of the day. I was really shocked when I heard on the radio one of those internet platforms that Liberians were saying our military is weak. Why can't we be like Burkina Faso or Guinea or Mali? So when we come back, we're going to discuss that. How safe is Ivory Coast when it comes to Coup? What are some of the areas that we need to be looking at to say, well, it's possible that Coup take place because of X, Y, Z? Let's take a short break and we'll be right back.
Focus on Liberia. We discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome back. This is Focus on Liberia, Roundtable Africa. My the host of Roundtable Africa, also a West African correspondent, Edward Amara, is joining us from Freetown, Chebelon. We are discussing the coup in Burkina Faso. And is this the return or the possible return of military strongmen in Africa? Because we saw that before, and it is raising its head again. If you want to be part of the discussion, please call the number in the ticker. That's our teleconference number, and then call in. Jason, you have to call the number on the screen. Jason, what's up? Hello, Jason. Go ahead. What you got?
Yes, thank you so much. Great talk, great talk. I would like to first, please go back to the whole concept of soldiering in Africa. From. And it goes to what the concept of soldiering was in Africa before independence, right? Most Africans, societies, not a lot, just in general, had citizen soldiers, right? We all know that. They were not, except for you go like Dahomey or Ashanti and Europe, most were not really standing armies, right? And how did militaries evolve in other countries, mainly the West? They evolved looking outward, that is, to prevent invasion from other countries or to attack and invade other countries, right? That is the basic notion of soldiering, as we have French army, the U.S. Army, Russian army. They were built to either invade or to prevent invasion. The colonial army that was created in Africa had a different philosophy, a complete different philosophy. It was created to control the Africans. It was built to look inward, right? So its culture is different. It wasn't built to look outward. It was built to look inward. So what would happen is that the colonial country would recruit the ethnic groups from the periphery, from the outside, from the edges of the colony. We usually would create those people, would recruit them, arm them, and bring them to the center, because the ethnic groups, usually the periphery, didn't have anything to do with the ethnic groups in the center. And so that's how you control the country, right? So that is the culture, the general stated culture of African armies. Now, the issue is independence. We have to look at independence. When the independent movement was going on in Ghana and Nkrumah, and elsewhere, those are great movements. There was a generic grassroots movements to bring independence to the country. The one institution that was not democratized was the military. The military was not democratized at independence, and a lot of this by design, because many times the metropole, the colonial governments, the colonial whatever, held control of the army until the day of independence. So whereas you had these, people becoming trying to make it independent judiciary under democracy and so forth, the military was not democratized, right? It was not included in the democracy process. So what you had at independence was the two locus of power. You had the military as a locus of power and the civilian government as a locus of power. And they were not included into the concept of civilian control of the military, right? Because a lot of these military guys were trained abroad in France and so forth and so forth. And so what happened over time was that the military started to exercise its own corporatist interest in the state by usurping the state under the coup d'etat. And it's gone back. So that is the number one issue with the military in Africa. You need to ask yourself, at independence, did Ghana, Nigeria need big standing armies? Was Ghana going to invade Nigeria? Did Nigeria plan on invading Ghana? No, right? No. What should have been instead would have been like some kind of a strong gendarmerie to control peace and so forth, and the border integrity. But a standing army is there to invade or to prevent invasion. And absent that, it looked inward, and you had this concept of coups. Because and the generals always did this. We're going to free the country of the corrupt dictators. We're going to do this. We're here to be your savior. And what did they do? They bankrupt each country. They put Africa under the IMF and the World Bank because they bankrupt. Was it? I think Babangida or Sani Abacha stole almost $800 million, one man. And they all put the money in Swiss bank accounts, and then the next guy said, hey, I want to get rich too. He grabs guys, and they're going to make the coup and do it. And that's the process that we see the residual effect today. Now this whole business is fighting, terrorism, which is a very violent fight, and should be defeated. The radical terrorists need to be defeated. But the issue is this also, right?
Thank you. Jason, just wind it down. We have other colors.
Okay. So we need to be careful with this business of Russia coming in, because look at what we've had this before. It's called the Cold War in Africa. We've had this before, the Cold War, when Russia and the West were doing their stuff all over Africa. And we've seen Russia, they're called the Wagner Group. The Russian guys who are doing it, they're called the Wagner Group. And you can look at Central African Republic and see what they've been doing there. You want to see what's happening? Look at if anybody thinks Russia is the answer, I'm not saying France or anybody, but if anybody thinks Russia is going to come in and be the savior or the answer, I know.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. Let's take a few comments here, and we're going to go back to our phone where Keseli Double is waiting. Keseli, give us a few minutes. Let's take some comments here. Augustine Tamba, good evening. Focus on Labrador. I'm religiously following closely from District 16, New Crew Town. And thank you, Augustine, and also our condolences for the passing of the people in the stampede. Augustine continued, after living a 14-year civil war through a few ones in a generation economic collapses, several ones in generation political earthquake, and once in a century pandemic. Yeah, those are the things that we've living through. Okay, Jason made a lot of comments here, but he's just spoken. He said, Jason said he completely disagree with you or Amara. What, I don't know for what, but we're going to see. Oh, he said, how can you praise Idris Deby of Chad? How? And I'll let you respond to that, and then we take the call. Joseph Paul, those who are rejoicing of this military coup, it is total sad day for West Africa. This is the return of the dark military dictator ruling days of West African region. Campbell Dennis, Mr. Amara is highly knowledgeable of the subject. The interference of the West Africa's affairs has often kept the continent stagnated in terms of political and socio-economic growth. Their constant involvement is due to their interest in exploiting the natural resources of the continent. Once Africa remains at war with herself, they succeed. Amara, your response to those comments and Jason's.
Yeah, Jason said, I don't know. He said, I praise Idris Deby. Maybe he may have misunderstood me. I said, we are watching at the child situation. When Idris Deby lost his life, we all know the time. Idris Deby have been very successful. I did not praise his administration in terms of human rights institution. We have been very successful in fighting against the jihadist movement. So we are talking about why the civilians welcome the military takeover in that of Burkina Faso and Mali. Maybe they still want it to happen so the way, because you watch Chad is a little bit stable when you compare to Burkina Faso. And we all know that Idris Deby have been absolutely successful when he was on the helm of affairs against the insurgent movement into the country. And when his son took over, though he has suspended the parliament and done other things, I think it's a little bit stable. They're not coming on media, and they are not facing a lot of attack compared to what is happening into Burkina Faso today. That was why I said maybe they welcome the coup d'etat in Burkina Faso because of the happenings into the sub-region like Chad and also Mali. But I'm not praising him because of human rights record or whatsoever. We all know Idris Deby was a dictator, and his son who also took over. He took over unconstitutionally, and he has suspended the constitution and made the parliament to be dysfunctional. At the same time, he has defocused the people on the movement of any political movement into the country because they are using the country instability as a pretext to grip on power.
Thank you. Vasidiki's son Kamara, there is a repeat of every bad governance in African history. Let's go to call lines now and welcome Mr. Keseli Double. Keseli, you live.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Ja, and thank you our West African correspondent. The problem with the coup in Africa and part of Africa is based on poverty. But one thing I want to say is that military coup is nothing that anyone should be happy of. Because sometimes when you think they are coming to redeem you, they turn out to be the worst. For example, Samuel Canado, people rejoice thinking that Liberia was liberated. But just to find out at the end of the day, people were being slaughtered, people were being high-handed. He wanted to become king. So how sure are we that these ones that are coming now, they're going to be any different from the one we had before? One would say that we have technology, most of them are educated, but yet the military men, that is not an excuse. So I just hope that leaders who are in power will do the right thing so that the young people of today do not be desperate and want change of power at all costs. Because if you look around us right now, the young people who are requesting for these things are people who have not seen civil war before, yeah? Unlike you and I, who have some experience, like some of us who were in Liberia from start to finish of the Civil War, we would never want us to happen. We will argue, we will debate the issues, but when it comes to coming to Civil War, we don't want it. Right. People are talking about overthrowing. So I just hope that, we'll have a set of change of mind, especially for the leaders who are in power, so they let them do the right thing, all they can do. Do the right thing for the people so that these things don't be repeated every time. That was set back for Africa.
Keseli, is it also true that leaders are taking advantage of this? That we don't want war, we don't want coup, and as a result, they are not doing the right thing. And when the people
I agree with that because right now, let's take for example Liberia, right? Regardless of all of our opposition we have in Liberia, if you interview Liberian people who had experience of the Civil War, those educated ones will always say, let's debate the issue. They will always say, let's debate the issue. Why is it true that they want change of power, but we don't want to go through the barrel of the gun to have a change of power? That is the problem. Even if we can protest and do it peacefully as a protest and bring the power down, it is better than doing it in a military form.
I agree. I agree. And Stephen Sly agree with that. He say Africans are fooled by military takeover. That's why we keep suffering till the end of the world. God forbid. But Siddiqui, African leaders are greedy and selfish. Amara, earlier I was talking about the precarious situation in this country, the suffering, the youth and everyone else. These are all fertile grounds for military takeover, because the military will use these kind of things. Not that they have any good intention, but they use this. They use the suffering of the people. They use the harsh economic situation. They look at how Africans are dying to go outside of their own country for greener pastures. We see that Africa has when it comes to the youth growing population, we're at the top, and so we should expect that things will become harder. And if care is not taken, the military is always going to take advantage of these things and come back on the scene.
Oh, thank you very much. With all due respect to a few of your callers, I don't know them personally, but from what I have perceived, they are not actually staying in Africa. They should be staying either in the US or outside country. That is one. Having underscored that, let us watch at certain situations like this. Even when Kwame Nkrumah took over, what did he say? So when the people feel crushed, they turn to the military. By their own leaders, later leaders, they turn to the military for survival. We all know it is not actually the responsibility or the primary duty of the military to rule any country. Rather, they are there to protect our land, our sovereignty, and also to protect us from foreign aggression. Unfortunately, these so-called leaders who we always elect from the poll through the ballot box, they tend to abuse the social contract and lord it over our heads. What is happening today in Burkina Faso, it is not the wish of the civilians to call upon any military government to take over. If they are not so, they have been under the leadership of Blaise Compaoré for quite a long time, and they never called for any military takeover. What you saw what happened when Thomas Sankara seized power, they supported that particular coup. And when you are seeing the civilians into that particular country, like in Mali, in Guinea, in Burkina Faso, in Ghana, or wheresoever military have taken over, it is only on few occasions that where you will see the civilians who move against such military, except in the long run, when they tend to even abuse the same power that they accuse the then civilian government of doing so. It is because the so-called democratically elected government that we normally install to power, we tend to abuse all systems. So you are going to watch at the prevailing circumstances into Burkina Faso and tell me on an honest and realistic background, why should the people not support the military? Kabore came into power in 2015. He promised them to provide security, economic development, and maybe a strong alliance with other states. Since then, nothing of that has been fell into Burkina Faso. Over 2,000 people have been killed. 300,000 pupils are not attending school. About 1.5 people are displaced all over, and the civilians are losing their life on a daily basis. Even the military themselves do not have the support that they need to take on the battlefront. So it's like Kabore himself also admitted it, and he allied himself with France. And France today is deteriorating the situation into Burkina Faso rather than to trying to amend it. I am not a proponent of any military takeover, but what I'm arguing here is that we should have responsible, proactive, and reactive government into Africa that may tend to advance the situation. We watch at it. Look like what happened into Liberia. A few days ago, that stampede that happened, about 29 people lost their life. You saw gangs moving into a kind of crusade ground to go and hijack people who are only there on religious basis. And this is what that is happening today into Africa. So you cannot blame the people, but you watch at the circumstances. Before ever you criticize my life, live first my life. If you live my life, you have the opportunity now to criticize me, but you cannot be outside and criticize. Observe what is happening today in Burkina Faso. Why do you think the civilians demonstrated against their own elected government and call upon the military to take over? It is because the government has failed them. The government has led them into a place that of no return. And the best way they can do now is to do it. It is better to dance with the devil that you know than the angel you do not know. Of course, in time of Russia against France. Maybe France may come with an honest opinion. I know what Russia is another exploitative government, but How long has France had been into Mali, into Burkina Faso, into places like Guinea? Have France actually managed to stabilize situation over there? No. And each and every situation that happened into those countries, whenever they accuse there is a political turmoil or a pandemonium into those countries, the first Western power to accuse is France. So it means France is more of a problem into those countries rather than a solution. That is why people are protesting. Maybe with the presence of Russia, China into those countries, they may provide a healthy, that I'm not saying they will, but they may provide a healthy competition. Sometimes the Burkinabe, the Malians, the Guineans, and people into this sub-region may know who they will subscribe their power to and wheresoever. But Russia, it is there on maybe on investment, but don't be surprised if they take another line to ensure that they empower that country in terms of military forces. But as you already said, it shouldn't be another Afghanistan where we see for like another Iraq and other places, even another Syria. That is our fear. But honestly speaking, France as a country has failed these countries, and that is why they have decided to change their support. Instead of looking up to France as their own savior, they are watching to foreign powers, people who never colonized them, like Russia.
Right. And it's very important that you say that before you criticize me walking my shoes, if you are in Liberia living in the graveyard as a Zogo, what would you say? And your life is not getting better. I witnessed the Liberian Civil War where I saw people from Burkina Faso fighting. Those people that were fighting, these were not people from families that were going to school. They were not working, right? These were the people that were doing the odd jobs in Ivory Coast and other places. So when the war came and they had the opportunity to fight war, loot, and rape women, that became very easy thing to do. So if we continue to have this kind of situation in Africa, I'm afraid that we should expect more of these. Let's look at other African countries. How do you look at Ivory Coast? Because there may be some copycat situations in West Africa. Where should we be looking right now?
Well, first, before coming to Ivory Coast, let's look like Niger. It's another country. In 2019, it suffered an attempted military takeover. Unfortunately, the Mohamed Dambo managed to stabilize the situation, maybe appeal to the general populace with the presence of France and reinforcement of military on the battlefront. The situation that has changed. But now, we have seen a situation in Chad. We have seen a situation in Mali and now in Burkina Faso. Niger is another fragile government, and Niger is also equally poor as Burkina Faso. And they are suffering from constant attack from ISIL, from Daesh, from this Islamic State Union, that is ISIL, and also from Al-Qaeda. And the government is not strong enough on our own to even fight against the insurgent. Although President Mohamed Dumba on his own part has actually moved to provide some socio-economic scheme to the people, especially those who are living from the north, where attack is always felt across the border with Mali, along the border with Mali, Burkina Faso, that of Cameroon, other places, to ensure that they provide certain social scheme to those people in time of money, and to ensure that those people are still within their own place, instead of the servers display like what the Burkinabes are doing today in Ouagadougou, begging on the street for food. And they will become frustrated. And if their colleagues keep on saying this, that they can even move to seize power to ensure that their people return where they came from, because there are trials involving to all of those things. So the government has actually managed to do that. And she has actually enforced and reinforced soldiers along those borderlines. Maybe, but she's also totally afraid. That particular government over there is totally afraid, because they are now the only people within that Sahel where they are suffering constant attack, who are having an elected government. And there was also an attempted coup on the country over there. So anything is possible. What she's now doing, continue having dialogue, trying to stabilize the situation and appeal to the general populace, because they shouldn't get any demonstration. Mind you, all the opposition need, all the military need is a popular demonstration against elected government, and they will use it as a pretext to take over. Of course, in Ivory Coast, Ouattara came on a ticket of a fraudulent election when his prime minister died. How do they? I'm just forgetting the man when he lost his life. So through a cardiac attack, what did he do? He decided to take over powers if there is no other competent politician into Ivory Coast. And stupidly enough, when this man took over in Guinea, they sent Ouattara to go and do the negotiation. That was why Doumbouya protested, because Ouattara is another violator of the very thing that he went to protect. So it's like trying to protect his own into power. So Ivory Coast is also being watched at. The only thing about Ivory Coast, with the arrival of Laurent Gbagbo into Ivory Coast, maybe the release of Simon Gbagbo, that is Laurent Gbagbo's wife, and also the release of other senior politicians, they have actually made a prudent move, because there is no longer a demonstration. And when Gbagbo came in, he formed his own political party when he was prevented joining that particular political party that is left. And now he's having a political party into Ivory Coast. Maybe they have been given the opportunity, and the issue of dual citizen was also dropped. So you are seeing Ivory Coast is a little bit stable. Maybe we are not going to foresee any military takeover. But trust me, if Ouattara's terms expire in 2025 and he decided taking over, or decided that I'm going to run for another presidential election, definitely we are going to foresee another military takeover over there, because people will demonstrate. And Gbagbo is present, other people are there, so the military is going to use that as a pretext. Cameroon is another one, because even with the AFCON that is going over there, people have been, in fact, the Southern Cameroonians are getting Northern Cameroon. They are fighting on a daily basis, because we are seeing an Anglophone and Francophone war into Cameroon, fighting against itself. And Paul Biya is very old. Trust me, the military have enriched themselves under the leadership of President Paul Biya. And I don't think whether they have the intention to overthrow President Paul Biya. But should Paul Biya dies today, trust me, another person will take over who could possibly be a military. And they wouldn't want that Paul Biya regime to continue. So we are also seeing another potential area where the military may end up to, though Paul Biya may not have a military background, but he's a Pan-African, he's very strong, and he has been into power for quite a long time. So should he die into power, and the military, because of the wealth that they have enjoyed, they will definitely take over. It's just like what happened into Sudan. Bashir, throughout the life, he has been there. And when after that particular demonstration, do you think that the colonel by name, who is something fatal into power, we allow a civilian to come into power and prosecute them? Because all the economy of Sudan is definitely based in the hands of the military. They control the air, but they have private investment, they have hotels and different other things over there. And if you allow a civilian without any military background to take over the helm of affairs, what do we do? They force these military guys out of power. They will set up tribunals to try them. At the end of the day, they will feel relegated. So they know that if Bashir helps rule today, many else are going to rule. We can also equate this situation to the similar one in Zimbabwe. We watched at Emerson Mnangagwa. He's one of the veterans, a world leader who they know that, like Grace Mugabe, who wanted to take over. There was never a war veteran. She never knew anything about the war. She only came as a secretary and was given the opportunity to serve in Mugabe's office. And when his wife died, she became the mistress, and later on as a wife. So Grace wanted to take over. So Emerson Mnangagwa and the others, we are not stupid. He's a nickname crocodile. They took over power because they wanted to protect that of their own lineage. So what we are saying here, we are going to watch at the background of those areas into Africa. As long as they have military background, where the military have taken long time into power, for a civilian government to come into power, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it has to take long time, and people must be willing to have a total change of the system, or else we are going to face a very difficult situation. So these are some of the countries very at stake: Burkina Faso, Chad, and Cameroon, and all of them are facing the same tsunami of attack. That is why the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said we are about to face an epidemic of coup d'etat into some regions into Africa, probably in the Horn of Africa, and at the same time in the west of Africa. Now we are seeing things like that are moving on, because when you see in the Horn of Africa, Sudan is not stabilized, South Sudan is not stabilized, Ethiopia is not stabilized, Kenya is facing some attack. Then you are even seeing Somaliland or that place. So even Uganda now, we are seeing another terrorist movement moving into Uganda. They are providing huge headache for what? For Yoweri Museveni. You watch at Congo. Congo is not safe.
Right. Okay. Amara, let me take our last caller here on the comment side. Vamandi Donso says military regimes are corrupt and civilian government are also corrupt. Only God can save us. We are like rice bread, fire under, fire on top. Where do we turn? But let's take our caller here. One caller on the line. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Good morning. How are you from my end? I'm calling from Des Moines, Iowa, and my name is Glawo Flomo.
Glawo, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Question or comment, sir?
Thank you very much, Brother Dennis. And I also want to applaud your studio guest with you there. Let me just give you my simple analysis. The problem in Africa today is political failure. And what happened is that players that you have in there who's supposed to be the ones putting things in place are being very mute and, only sitting to wait for the worst case scenario. I'm just going to, lament briefly on the situation we have in our own backyard in Liberia regarding the denial of Brendan Sano being certificated after being duly elected by over 20,000 votes of the Lofa County people. Is that really something that is justifiable? Is that a recipe of trickery, something that would be very disturbing, destabilizing the country? It is not far from that. And these are the problems that we have today. The we-are-led government, knowing very well that what she's doing is against constitutional rules, continue to do it, and people sit by and say nothing. Nothing. But he feels very good to deny Lofa of being fully represented in the Senate. For no reason. And then he has started witch hunting the man. Why if, let me just say, why if people that Brendan Samukai decides to, take the extreme, decision? What's going to happen in Liberia? There are people who, right in the weird government, that will welcome that.
Yeah.
We should deny the fight. But my only problem is when I say political failure in Africa is because, like, let's say, for instance, West Africa, they are not entertaining any coup, detail again. When you stage your coup, they're going to deny your government. It's like, we see that. But how forceful is this?
Right.
What are the things that are being put in place that when these things happen, they can bring them, for a remedy?
That's true. Thank you.
There's nothing. They wouldn't say that talk.
Right.
And then they will see the wrong thing happening. They don't intercept. They don't study. They don't, get into it.
Until there is coup before.
Until there is coup.
Yeah.
It's not solving the problem for us. It is
thank you, Mr. Flomo.
For me, I'm really taking a back, on something like this. Yeah, nobody wants to, except for we who have gone through that kind of bloody civil war that we had in the past. Who want to have anything of such? Our coup was triggered because of the monetary government. Nobody want to go into the kind of mess again. But here where we are.
Thank you.
If we can see the thing and speak truth to power, I think we can stop most of these things. And this is just something because since the coup in Burkina Faso, in Mali, people have been talking in the corner in Liberia and this and that. And where I want coming from now is because of the Brendan Samuka issue. And Brendan Samuka, let us not forget that he is a full-trained military military man. He has that skill in him, and he can mobilize people. Why if this guy decides to go to extreme? Tomorrow will be something, this and that, we don't want that, and we'll be late.
Thank you, Flomo.
People who have been destroyed.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother Dennis, for having me on too.
Thank you. All right. And we are almost out of time here. Almost out of time. Let me put one comment on the screen here. Joseph Kokro is irrespective of bad experience endured yesterday as a result of bad governance. Most Africans will continue to yearn and embrace unorthodox change. And that is to your point, right? Because so we have two schools of thought here. People say, hey, the coups are bad, we should not. Others are saying if the governments are bad and the condition of the people continuing to deteriorate, they will continue to yearn for these unorthodox means as like coup and other military takeover. Amara, we have 5 minutes to close. We are fearing the return of the strong men to Africa. What is the solution? What can be done to avert this kind of thing?
Well, we all know why we go to the polls to elect our government. And in fact, the situation of Africa is always, each and every African country have similar problems to our neighbor. If you watch our situations into Liberia, into Sierra Leone, into Guinea, Ivory Coast, are almost the same. And we are now afraid of seeing a tsunami of these military strongmen hitting hard on Africa. Now it is taking toll into West Africa. We are seeing certain sentiment like that being viewed into the Horn of Africa. And even in the East Africa, there are still countries over there who are being ruled by military men. So having underscored that, maybe what we should, what some, but this possible solution could be like, let us start having responsible government who obey their social contract with the civilians that they sign. Because watch a situation like that. Liberia came to a time that Weah was unable to pay his civil servants. We are disgruntled. What do you think young men could dress up one evening and go and attack a crusade ground? Nothing like that. Even there are times even watch crazy people into the street. If you are in certain places, not that they have the intention to go and hijack somebody who can even be selling it on the road. They just take it and want to survive. So this is a situation that we are seeing. We are having irresponsible government that are not responsible. Government, there is a system failure into Africa. And the system failure is coming with the type of governance system that we are having. And we also watch at AU. AU is a reactive institution, not a proactive one. And I think having AU should be like having a proactive institution installed in place to avert situation like this. Most of the times, they condemn military takeover into Africa. This is a carefully premeditated, pre-written document, place. They only go and edit the name and they condemn each and every country. That is not the function that we have AU for. That is not the function that we have ECOWAS for. That is not the function that we have UN for. They should be there to advance situation. They should be there to take proactive measures that will prevent coup d'etat happening on the continent of Africa. We all knew what was happening into Guinea. Why do you think AU and ECOWAS and UN and other bodies have to sit until there is a coup d'etat into Guinea? When they knew precisely that Condé violated the constitution to run for a third time, ban others, kill demonstrators or protesters on the street, and fraudulently forced the court to declare him the winner. When Mamadi took over, they started to condemn. But he knew the problem. I think Africa should stop making the West taking paracetamol to cure our headache here. Maybe we have solution to our own problem. And one of the solutions now we are seeing, people are demonstrating. But as we are rightly saying, because yes, some school of thought says, or some school of thought clearly state that the worst civilian government is the best military regime. That is what some school of thought have been saying. But can you equate the worst civilian government to the government of Thomas Sankara? Watch Paul Kagame into Luanda. He's a military man. He only took over power through the ballot box. But his background is a military one. Only few civilian government actually succeeded on the continent. So it's like it is high time our democratically elected officers or president or head of state respect the constitution, the oath that they normally take before the people into parliament, usually before the Lord Chief Justice. They should obey it, and there should be term limited to Africa. Nobody should violate it willfully. That is what normally creates problem into our country when African leaders tend to install themselves into power as president for life. And above all, AU should know that when they have their neighbors, because they said if your neighbor house is on fire, never go to bed. Because anytime a flame may also catch yours. So today it's happening to West Africa because we have seen what happened into Mali. Look at what is happening today into Burkina Faso. It happened into Guinea. That is why Niger and other places are even worried. And even Nigeria. Is Nigeria safe? No, Nigeria is not safe. Nigeria, maybe we may not experience a civil war. We may not experience a military takeover. But how is the Niger Delta people going to survive? How is the North going to survive? So we are seeing daily basis people, but Nigeria is worse than any of these Burkina Fasos that we are seeing. People are being kidnapped. People are being killed. Nigeria is facing one of the worst situations into Africa. So they are not happy. Everybody just happy.
Thank you, Amara. Thank you so much for the insight. At 6 o'clock today, we're going to have court cases with political implications. We have the Browning Samukai case. He's being sentenced to 2 years unless he restitutes millions of dollars. We have Alexander Cummings being sued for forgery. We also have Darius Dillon being sued for libel. We have the ANC and LP leaders being sued for damages by court officers. What are the updates on these cases? What are the ramifications and what the possible outcome will be? Councillor Frederick Jewell will be here at 6 o'clock to break this all down. Keep tuned. Don't forget, if you want to send money to your people in Africa, use Kana Cash. It is safe, legal, and easy. You can download the Kana Cash app from Google Play or your Apple App Store. Here at Focus on Liberia, we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks to our West African correspondent for breaking this all down. Thank you so much, Amara, and join us again at 4 o'clock for On Point and at 6 o'clock for Prime Time Sunday. Until then, my name is Dennis Johnson. Have a good day.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people. Liberia.